Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we've just talked all about Jordan Love and his contract disputes. He has officially said he is not going to practice with the Green Bay Packers until he gets a brand new contract, most likely market resetting money. If he gets that $50 million, which if I'm Jordan Love, I'm honestly not accepting less than 50 just because you have all the leverage right now, but you do want to get this deal done before the season starts. That way you don't lose any of that leverage because right now you're at the top of where you probably will be for a very long time. But anyway, at least that's guaranteed. In this segment, we are going to finish up our NFL coverage. We're going to finish up our QB coverage, actually. We're going to talk a little bit about the top 5 quarterbacks that are in prove-it seasons. That means quarterbacks that if A, perform poorly this season, they are out of a starting job. They are out of the NFL, maybe. These are quarterbacks that need to have good seasons if they want to continue their career. We're going to talk all about we have a top 5 list and more. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you have to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to add, go ahead and throw it in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate all of you guys for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to finish up our QB coverage for the day, our NFL coverage for the day, before we get into a new NFL division for this week. Pick back right up where we left off. We still have 6 divisions to go for predicting. But which quarterbacks have do or die seasons? Again, we have a top 5 list for you here. Again, do or die season. What does that mean? If these quarterbacks perform poorly, they're most likely out of the NFL. They're most likely out of starting jobs. Maybe they go get off of their reputation a backup gig somewhere, but this is their last shot. This is their shot to prove that they belong as a starter in the NFL, and this is probably the season that they have to do it. So at number 5 here, we have, again, like I said, it is a top 5 list. At number 5 here, we have Geno Smith, and I know that might sound a little surprising to some people because Geno Smith has been really good, and I personally don't think that he needs to have a prove-it year here, which is why he's down at number 5 below the rest of these guys on the list who I truly do believe need to have this prove-it year. Geno Smith is here at 5. He is already kind of on the hot seat in Seattle, right? They go in and they trade for Sam Howell from Washington, and people are saying he should start over Geno Smith, which is kind of absurd. Geno Smith has been awesome, and there's no reason to usurp him or take him out of that starting spot, but there's already a lot of pressure to get rid of a guy like Geno Smith, and you don't want to have that pressure grow. The more the public goes, especially with a new coaching staff, a new GM, a new front office, really, that didn't bring you in, this is something that, you have to knock all the noise out. So I have Geno Smith here at 5 for quarterbacks that need to perform well, or in do or die seasons right now. At number 4 on the list, we have Russell Wilson. And this spot really could go to the Steelers quarterback room in general, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. But I put Russell Wilson here at number 4 over Justin Fields just because Justin Fields is young, right? And there's still a lot of, hey, maybe there's potential here. Russell Wilson is a guy who's older. He's past his prime, definitely. We saw a drop-off when he left Seattle. In Denver, he was mid at best last season with Sean Payton when he comes in. Now we have... Excuse me. You still alive? Yeah, we are. Okay. Apologies. I got a pop-up on my screen. So, Russell Wilson is here at number 4. Like I was saying, if he doesn't have a good year, this is one of those guys that might not even get a backup role. And I know that's one of those things that's a little little crazy to say, but he's on a 1-year prove it deal, right? This is a very clearly a prove it deal. He signs it. He's got plenty of guaranteed money coming in from the Broncos after his contract was essentially bought out. He goes and signs for almost veteran minimum with the Steelers. There's no guarantee he even makes it through this season. If he performs poorly, you have all the pressure of not just having a full season. You have to play good starting in week 1 and prove that you are the better quarterback than Justin Fields, who is right behind you, who is in a very similar situation. Like I said, this number 4 spot can go to the entire Steelers quarterback room, but Russell Wilson seems like he's in bigger danger of being out of the NFL completely if he has a poor season, rather than Justin Fields, who feels like he might have one more shot left in him. Third time's the charm. This is the third time for Russell Wilson. He has to get it right here. I don't know if he will, but he is number 4 on the list of quarterbacks that need to be good this season. At number 3, we have Tua Tagovailoa, and this one, again, he is in conversations to get a $50 million contract right now. Tua is, right? And him needing to have a good season is along the same lines of, we just talked about it with Jordan Love. Jordan Love is on the ascension. We just saw Tua stay healthy for 1 year and put up the numbers he did, but it wasn't like he was doing that, right? It kind of felt like that was the offense that was built around him, right? With Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the running backs that are super fast in Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert. All of these guys, it's like a track meet over there in Miami, and it's a great team, great weapons all around him. If Tua needs to prove to get the contract, this is why it's a prove it year for him. This is basically, hey, he's basically playing this season for a $55 million contract, maybe even a $60 million contract. If he's able to replicate what he did last season, if he's able to stay healthy and do what he did last season, which you look at the weapons around him, like I said, if he stays healthy, there's no reason to assume that he will have a bad season. This is something that he needs to stay healthy. The offensive line took a step back. He needs to be able to learn to make some decisions on his own rather than just going to the first read. That's been a criticism with Tua. He just needs to read a defense better, and that's the hardest part of playing quarterback, right? Making all those throws and then also reading the defense as it changes. But this is a prove it year for him, and he is essentially playing for $50 million right now. And there's not really any other way to say it other than a prove it year. $50 million is a contract season for him. He's either gonna perform and get paid, or he is going to get the minimum somewhere to be a backup. Maybe not the minimum, but he's going to have trouble finding a job if he has a poor performance this season with the wealth of weapons he has with the Miami Dolphins. And number 2, we go to the opposite, someone without the wealth of weapons. We have Daniel Jones of the New York Giants, and we know he signed a 4-year contract 2 years ago, right? But the way that the contract is built, the Giants have an out after this season. And if you've been keeping up with Hard Knocks, watching the Giants, they're really trying to say, oh, it's not Daniel Jones's fault. He just didn't have any help around him. This is not his fault. This is his last season in New York if he performs poorly. Now, he can buy himself another year, possibly 2. It's going to be really hard. He needs to take a step that has honestly never been done by a quarterback this late in their career, coming off of a season-ending torn ACL that he suffered early on last season. He should be ready to go, but it's not looking good for Daniel Jones. This is play for your career. This is why he's ranked ahead of Tua here. This is a guy who's playing for his career in Daniel Jones. He needs to perform, and again, not all of these guys are going to be able to perform to the level that you expect them to as a starting quarterback. But he sits here at number 2. Daniel Jones needs to have a great season. So far, 5-2. We have Geno, Russell Wilson, Tua Tagovailoa, and Daniel Jones. And the number 1 spot, a quarterback that needs to have a good season. And it might seem a little early to some of you guys, but Bryce Young is my number 1 quarterback here. This isn't anything as dramatic as he's leaving the league. This isn't anything as dramatic as, he's not going to get a contract. He's going to be on the team. He's going to be on the Panthers. But this Panthers team has done a lot this offseason to make it better. Last year was bad. This is the year when you're looking at young quarterbacks. Generally, it's the rule of three, right? If they're not ready by year 3, if they're not starting to show signs in year 2, it's probably not going to happen. Now, there's always outliers, right? Josh Allen, for example, outlier, right? But Bryce Young is not Josh Allen. We can sit here and be honest about that. They go out and they get weapons. They go out and get him receivers. They upgrade that offensive line. He needs to at least show something. Now, this isn't the traditional prove it, but Bryce Young, to avoid being a bust, obviously they give up basically a first overall pick for him. They give up Caleb Williams for him, and that's a tough pill to swallow if you're the Panthers. David Tepper is a guy that, as we've seen, has not been very patient with coaches, with players. They need to make the improvements now. Bryce Young needs to show up. And he doesn't have to be elite, but he has to prove that he belongs in the NFL. He can't be one of the worst quarterbacks in the league like he was last season. He is number 1 on the do or die list for quarterbacks for me. Let me know if you agree, disagree with anything I said here. I'll go through the list one more time before we move off of this segment. Geno Smith at 5, Russell Wilson at 4, Tua at 3, Daniel Jones at 2, and Bryce Young at 1. In our next segment, we are going to leave the world of football until tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit about Team USA. They've had a couple of close calls, 2 close calls in a row now, actually, as their game with Germany just wrapped up. They were able to avoid a loss, but they beat South Sudan by 1 point. They almost lose it. They let South Sudan get to the rim on them in that last possession. Now, Germany, who is a better team than South Sudan, takes them to the limit again. We'll talk about what we learned about this U.S. team, what this means as they head into the Olympics coming up in just about a week from now. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.